no, so I was just going to say that the next point that we want to cover here, Richard, is, how do you then monitor your industry in particular and therefore then engage with the customers and prospects that are in relation to you? So how do you cut through this noise?
Okay, now cutting through the noise. So what I'm going to show you first, if you're looking at the webinar, if you're looking at the, we've still got some periscopers, yep. If you're looking at the page we're on, hopefully everyone can see my Twitter feed there, and I'm just highlighting the word lists. Now, if I click through lists, everybody who's watching now who has a Twitter account is able to find these public lists, but I will detour and tell you about private lists in a minute. But
can I just ask one question? Lists is actually sitting there already. I know you've created lists, but if you haven't created any, you would still have a title there saying lists. Everyone can find it.
They'll find it by, in this instance, obviously you can see you're on my, using Tony's brand manager Twitter account. We've clicked into my Richard Wolf account.
Yep.
So basically, once you click into my Richard Wolf account, which we've got up now,
yep.
and sort of click through to this menu,
yep.
I'm using my hand motion as if
you
can see that,
yep.
but you'll find the menu across tweets, following, followers, and so forth. Lists is at the very end, as you can see. Now,
okay.
Once you click into lists, you can scroll through the lists, and you'll actually find that I've gone and created ones that will help everybody find some grouping of accounts out there, which instantly gives them high quality feed, not necessarily exactly for their industry or their occupation, but it will give you a very, very good start because it's an infinite, group of possibilities out there. So you've got to narrow it. So what I've given people is, for instance, the search and social zone is the Twitter feeds of all the primary, search engines and social media accounts out there, their own Twitter accounts. So you can see what the big engines are sharing. Obviously, our politicians, our leadership team, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's team, that's the cabinet. There's sort of 24 of them who use Twitter for keeping track of what they're sharing on Twitter live and raw. You pop into their account.
So can we have a look at one of these, Richard? Can we just go into pick one?
Well, I'm going to go down. I'm going to pick one because we're all into Ideas Boom Australia.
Yep.
So I'm going to pick this one here, which is certainly not specific to any, one type of team. It's called the Australia and New Zealand Commercial, Gov, and Educators Innovators grouping. Now,
so
obviously,
this is your feed. You've created this. This doesn't exist. You've created this.
Yeah, this actual list doesn't exist anywhere but at my account, and I put it together with 118 other Twitter accounts in there, not my own, but 118 other people's accounts.
Yep.
And when we go into this account, you can see that if I click on down here, list members, you'll see that I've put in some of the most ahead of their time almost groups of users on Twitter, which are sharing real-time information. And I'll show you an example of that. So in order to find really useful information, if you're interested in the startup sector, the innovation boom, rather than go hunting out all of these individual accounts and following them individually, you can come and take this list and you could just pop in and subscribe to it by clicking over here on subscribe. So we'll do that now, and this will add it to Brand Manager's account.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll subscribe to it now, and that will be 19 who have done that. And if you want to see the kind of content that's coming through, you just go back to tweets, and you can see up to just, in the last 10, 11 minutes, people are either original sharing or retweeting other people's content. And, we'll talk about retweeting in a minute because it's all about generating content. But when you scroll down, you can see who shared, what they're sharing. And as a learning curve, you'll start to see what looks effective to you and, things that you think aren't effective. So, if I pause on CSIRO, that image is quite startling. It might make you stop and ask what they're talking about. You might click through their link and so on. So because when people start, they don't know what they should share. By going to these lists and subscribing to them, then they, everyone listening who wants to get onto Twitter but doesn't really understand what they would be using for, how it could be used, a shortcut, create the account, go to the Richard Wolf _AU account, go to the lists that I've got, public lists, and then take as many, one or up to the 17 that are available. And then, of course, on their, on your mobile phones or your tablet computers or your desktop, when you're on Twitter in the app or on desktop, just like you would watch TV in the morning or in the evenings, you read a newspaper in the morning or the evenings.
Yep.
It's the same here exactly. You just pop into the lists and choose ones that are interesting to you. So we'll just scroll down another couple.
Can you just maybe show us how to create a list? So the option is to go to Richard's or anybody that's got lists, but I think you're probably one of the only ones that have found this thing. So again, it's a takeaway from today.
That's right.
Is to start off on Twitter, if you're not already doing it, create lists that are relevant to your particular business or interest. But Richard's going to just show us now how to set up one on using the brand manager account. So if we've only got 3 lists, so we're kind of a bit behind the times.
Sure.
Richard, so how do we create a list?
All right, so I've just popped back into the brand manager Twitter account, and you can now see the new one that we just followed there. It's popped up in the feed. Now we can just pop in here to create lists, so that's easy to do. And we're going to call this one, let's call it clients. Let's be cheeky.
Yep.
In fact, let's be even cheekier. We've got clients, let's go for prospects.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we want to keep ourselves, engaged and finding out. So you can see you've got public and private. Because
so
of
just
lists like
explain
this.
to us about public and private. Why do you have 2?
Okay, very excellent question. With my public lists, you saw all of the ones which I wanted people to be able to subscribe to, and they're generic. They're accounts that I've grouped together in these lists so that if it's innovators or if it's newspapers or if it's television networks, it's an advantage for everyone. Now, with my private lists, they're ones that have nothing to do with the general public. It may be me grouping my clients, me grouping my prospects, me grouping things that are very, personal to my family needs.
Yep.
And it's not relevant, which schools and which, vet that I use, but I can group all of those into a single private list, and then I can keep tabs.
And even for
on
business, I
that.
suppose, like if you had chosen clients, I don't particularly want to share my list of clients publicly. So I would make that a private list. Whereas if it's more like you had innovators in Australia, that would be maybe a public list that you want to share with others and create more of a following.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
that is exactly
right.
All
right. So we're going to do a private list.
So if we create this private list, now we can skip through that section and we can just go back a page, and now we'll have the private list showing up here, the prospects list with the padlock. Okay. Now, let's say, name not one of your own personal prospects, but any company that we can think of. But
let's go. Let's say Westpac, for example.
Let's say
we want to follow Westpac.
We're
really keen on doing some work with Westpac.
So what we would do, we would find their Twitter account. We would click on that.
Yep.
And we would it takes seconds either on the app or on the desktop, and we click into the cogs and we go add or remove from lists. And we're going to put it into prospects, which is a locked list. And we're going to go, that's it actually. That's it.
Because we don't need a new list.
That's right. So now, of course, if we wanted to go back to our list, we've now got that list. And if we click on that list only, the only thing coming through is Westpac. So the more people you put in the list, of course, you get their real-time feeds, and you can exit them from your list as easily as uncheck the box.
So let's take this a step further, Richard. So